All right. We are about to have Bartek up on stage, the founder of L2BEAT, to talk about risk. Big round of applause. Come on, guys. There we go.
So, good afternoon, everybody, or should I say buenas tardes, Argentina. De hecho, me dijeron que nos hablan castellano aquí, se hablan porteño, ¿no? ¿Alguien de Argentina aquí? ¿No? Che, boludas, ¿dónde están? Nowhere. So, it seems like my fate is to come to South America and announce a risk framework for bridges. I've done that 3 years ago. When I was in Bogota 3 years ago, we announced L2BEAT for bridges, which was our attempt to police interoperability solutions at the time. And while I kind of consider L2BEAT to be a highly successful organization, we keep all the L2s at check. So whenever you hear that this L2 or that L2 is stage 1, stage 2, we set these standards and we do all the hard work to check that they are not lying to you, that they are true to what they say. And believe me, this is a lot of work. So we kind of thought that this is needed as well for the Interop. And like I say, while I think that we are doing an amazing job for L2s, we kind of like failed to actually do it for bridges. So it was kind of a simple framework. We divided bridges into 2 main categories. There's like a token bridges, those that can mint tokens, and the bridges that we call liquidity networks, those that don't mint the tokens, that they just like send you tokens on the destination. And I thought at the time that the most important consideration was the validation mechanism. We could like look at the bridges from the point of view how trustless they are, and we wanted all the bridges to go from like the bottom, where you have to trust the third party, you have to trust some operator, all the way to the top. The trustless version, the best version is like a roll-up bridge, stage 2 roll-up bridge. And we kind of thought that 3 years ago, most of the bridges were third party, and they would all go up as long as we pushed them to do that. Unfortunately, the space has moved in the direction that we did not see, and this is probably one of the reasons why we kind of failed with this effort. Today, it seems like every single bridge that you'll see is kind of the same. It's super complicated. It's both token bridge and liquidity network and internet network in one. It acts as a bridge aggregator. It chooses the cheapest route for you. It's got a very complicated routing logic. It actually allows you to do the same chain swaps, the different chain swaps. In short, it's super complicated. And UI abstracts this complexity, so you cannot like do this simple classification of these bridges. But also it's even worse because it's not like every bridge is complicated. Now most tokens are omni-chain tokens, so that they can actually move these tokens around between different chains. And every single little token is actually a little tiny bridge with all this underlying complexity below. So we have layer 0 OFTs, hyperlane warp tokens, XLR, ITS, Chainlink, Wormhole, Circle, CCTP, and even like a wrapper on top of all of them. So it just became way too complex, and I think we focused on the wrong thing. So I'm basically happy to announce here that we're going to do a second attempt at policing Interop, but this time we're going to do it in a slightly different way. Going back to the basics, we kind of thought that most users should care about safety and liveness of bridges, right? You should like hope that the bridge is not going to lie to you. If you bridge 100, 100 will be actually minted on the other side, and they won't like mint for themselves money that they don't belong to them in a way, and the bridge should be live, right? Meaning that if you send some money through whatever Interop facility you might use, eventually it will reach the destination, right? So you don't have to wait for a couple of hours. That's what we thought that is like the most important. However, I think for the end users, actually these things matter more. They mostly are worried about the price. They just want to get as cheap solution as they want. They want to get money as fast as possible. And the safety is kind of like a second thought, right? Like most users actually think that once they bridge, once they are on the other side of the bridge, they save. So they might be in danger for some time, they might actually feel this dread of bridging, but once on the other side, they are probably right, safe, and the risk is gone. This is not true, by the way, for a lot of constructions. However, that's how most users actually think about these constructions. So if you go to a center of Buenos Aires, you might actually meet these people. They like stand in the middle of a street, even now, even though the times changed in Argentina, and they like keep shouting "cambio, cambio," right? They call them arbolitos here, and they simply, allow you to swap your US dollars for the Argentinian pesos. Any of you have actually used such service? Few? Would you give $100 to that guy and allow that guy to walk into the dark alley with the promise to come back 1 minute later with Argentinian pesos? Who would do that? No one? How strange, because this is like literally what you do every single day on blockchain. That's what you do. And not with just $100, right? Like you do it with often much more money. I mean, like for me, frankly, it is like super hard to process why this is actually the case. Like why normally in real life, our instincts would go, no, I don't trust this guy, right? I don't know him. Whereas on blockchain, it's all fine. You do it every single day, I can assure you. Take an example. This is a bridge. This is an official bridge from the top rollup. The rollup that put millions into the security, that secures trillions of dollars, billions of dollars. That is a stage to roll up, and that I'm sure cares a lot about being trustless. They like heading up the space. And that bridge, when you want to move some ETH, in this case it's like, $3, whatever, it actually suggests you 3 different routes that you can take. You can take what they call the best deal route. You can take what they call the fastest route, and the route called secured by Arbitrum, right? So which one would you choose? Who would choose the bottom one? Okay. Couple of people. I'm assuming that the rest would choose the top ones, or they're too shy to actually say, but let's assume that whoever is going to choose the bottom one is definitely the minority. But maybe we're wrong. Maybe our instincts are wrong. So we actually spent a couple of months observing the chain for the real Interop transactions. And by the way, this is not easy task. I mean, if you try to do that, it takes actually some time to analyze all these protocols. And before I show you the result, I was actually wondering, like, maybe there's some extra explanation, like what is it to be secured by Arbitrum? But no, nothing happens when you hover on these buttons, right? If I were to design this UI, I would kind of put something like this. The bottom one would say, regardless of the quantity, your transfer will succeed eventually. The top one, the success of your transfer depends entirely on the goodwill of the trusted operator. The transfer may fail, your funds could become stuck. Be careful, especially when transferring significant amounts. And I wonder how many users would actually change, the choice. How many users would go for the bottom one if they knew? It's just that they don't tell you for some reason. So what do users choose? Maybe they know better. Let's have a look. Well, turns out that the vast majority of users are actually choosing a protocol called Relay, which, if you didn't know, is like by far the most used right now Interop protocol. Then we have GasZip, which is like literally the same. You have to trust the centralized operator. Across, that is arguably better. And then you have got CCTP, Layer 0, Stargate, and other protocols. And this is like the breakdown of the messages, the Interop messages between Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism, and Base. So granted, these are not all the chains, right? But, we're talking about the main chains and Ethereum and the messages between these chains. So So the relay is by far the most used protocol. So what is relay? So I'm going to show you how relay works, slightly simplifying, because there are like various variants, if you like, but I'm going to show you probably one of the most popular variant because it's the cheapest. So this is what happens on the source chain. You're literally sending your ERC20 token to an EOA. That's what you do. And when you transfer this EOA, you append in the call data. At the bottom, you can see in the transfer function this long hash. This is additional ID that you append, and that's it. There is no event other than sending ERC20 token. So if you're sending if, there's like literally no event whatsoever, because when you do the if transfer, there are no events. And you're sending into the solver, to the EOA account. There's nothing cheaper than that, right? You cannot do any interop cheaper than that. So what happens on the destination? This is essentially the same. You get, hopefully, you get your funds on the destination chain just being sent from EOA. That's it, right? And you look at your transfer and you will see the same hash. So you can actually identify on chain, like you can match the source and the destination from this hash. And by the way, this is kind of curious because normally transfer only gets recipient and amount, right, in the call data. So if you didn't know, it is actually possible to attach some extra call data which goes beyond the API. That's kind of cool. It's just that the Etherscan doesn't know about it because it knows the API that says transfer, address, and amount. You have address here, right, in the stop line. You have amount in the middle line, but the third line is like, no one knows about it, right? This is like this extra call data. And that's it, 2 transfers, right? So where do you get this ID from? This is how it works. Before you do your transfer, you actually ask the off-chain API, right? You ask the guy through the off-chain API, hey, I want to do something, and this guy says, cool, send some funds to this EOA address, and this is the ID, and I will do that something. And that something can be, frankly, anything, right? It can be like send me some funds on the destination chain. It can be buy me an NFT on OpenSea. Maybe it could be even like buy me an Amazon book or something, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Essentially, you're trusting this guy who wants you to send funds to the EOA that this guy will actually do what they promised. That's how it works. It's super easy, right? So, I mean, for me, really, I mean, this is the Arbolito situation, right? And we all do that on-chain. So I don't know. I mean, the Relay protocol, they keep saying that, Relay is revolutionary, but I guess I'm too dumb to understand that. So maybe we're going to find out how revolutionary it is. But for me, what is really revolutionary about this space is actually the ability to build trustless protocols. And trustless protocols are obviously harder, right? They're harder to build, they are more complicated, and you need more effort, as simple as that. So maybe you haven't heard about Relay. This is actually kind of funny because, like I say, I mean, this is by far the most used protocol in the space. Most people have heard about the Cross because it's been longer, much longer. Relay is a relatively new protocol. It's been launched last year. And if you compare a Cross to Relay, you'll see that the settlement protocol in a Cross is actually quite complicated. It evolved over the years. They put a lot of work and effort into that. It includes permissionless relaying after some exclusivity timeline. It includes refunds and dispute via optimistic oracle called UMA. They actually, in the latest version, also worked with Succinct to introduce ZK proofs. So cost and transfer speed for users is like very low, but it's not super low. Like with Relay, it's very low and it's very cheap. And if your UI will choose the cheapest route for you, they will choose Relay, obviously. They will choose protocol, which is like super simple and 100% trusted, over the protocol that puts years of effort into making it trustless, right? So if we were to design the trust metric around these protocols, we would probably say that Relay is like super low and Cross is like relatively high. Maybe it can be better. But our goal, I think, as a community, if we kind of sign this trustless manifesto, is to try to push Relay towards a cross. And at the same time, try to push across towards what we would describe as an equivalent of a stage 2 rollup, right? Something that's truly trustless, because there are trusted components in the cross. So let's have a look at another protocol which is highly successful. You might have heard about Layer 0. This is an interoperability protocol that is powering omni-chain tokens. And again, if you compare omni-chain token protocols, Layer 0 has a very significant lead and market share. So if, let's say, you're working on RWA, it is extremely likely that they will try to convince you that you should design your RWA as an omni-chain token with Layer 0. So how Layer 0 works? Essentially, what happens when you design your token, this is the USDT 0 token that you see on the left. You will have to define your validation logic, if you like, which in almost all cases comes down to using one of what they call DVNs. And you may have one DVN attesting a message. You may have more than one DVN, in which case it becomes kind of a multisig out of 2 multisig. So this is, you define that as your application, as your token. The problem is that you actually define it for every single route individually, right? So if you want to be on, let's say, 50 chains, suddenly you have 50 square routes to define. Suddenly you have to do this definition everywhere. And the more chains you will support, the more fragile you will become. Because it's like literally impossible, to maintain this configuration. And because of that, the vast majority of tokens simply use the default configuration. They just don't want to configure their own security. They just fall back to the default security. And we did a little analysis. What it means in practice, it means that for 13% of tokens and incoming packets, there's only one DVN attesting. So it's like an EOA. It's just one EOA attesting. For 83%, it's 2 EOAs attesting. So it's like a 2 out of 2 multisig. And then you've got 3, 4, right? But the vast majority is like 2 or just 1. And who is attesting? Oddly enough, Nethermind is one of the main attesters. So you can see 60% of packets are attested by 2 out of 2 multisig, which is comprised from Nethermind and Stargate. And again, that's kind of, to me, interesting to know that Nethermind, one of the main contributors to trustless Ethereum, developers of one of the nodes, and obviously, like very beloved community, and yet somehow suddenly look under the hood, and then turns out that this Arbolito is Nevermind, right? So that's what we are. So let's have a look at some more data. Base, Optimism, Arbitrum, and Ethereum, like I said, the green lines are canonical bridges, and the red lines are all the other protocols, right? So we look at all the data, we look at all the protocols, and this is what we got. Like I said before, most is Relay. Then we have Circle, CTTP, Hyperlane, Across, GasZip. That little square here is canonical, the pinkish one, right? That's what we want. Instead, what we have is all the rest. So if you look at the same token transfers, like you transfer ETH across or transferring USDC, again, by the number of transfers, it's mostly Relay across. However, by the volume, suddenly CTP turns out to be the biggest, the most used bridge, which is kind of interesting. And maybe this is a little bit comforting that if the transfers are over 100K, then people indeed turn to move a little bit higher up the security stack, right? So for the biggest transfers, there's Orbi stack and OP stack. I mean, these are like the canonical bridges. However, Relay is not at the bottom, right? And you can see that actually, this is 24-hour, by the way, right? So at one day, like maybe 2 days ago, this is very fresh data, we saw 725 transfers of a relay that were above 10K. Okay, so we're giving to Arbolito like maybe 20K or 50K. So that's how we work today, and we think at L2BEAT that I guess we need to change that. That pretty much like paints the same picture. It doesn't matter whether we talk about Ethereum or Arbitrum or Base. You know, I guess the space looks more or less the same, right? So to sum up this, before I kind of like show you what we plan to do, I think at the moment I would probably see the state of the Interop as something like this. You either use omnichain tokens, in which case it's like a hot potato, because they carry on the risks with them. So if you receive this omnichain token, you have to know that you trust, you know, these DVNs, often the single one, like Nevermind. Or you use something like Relay or other intent networks, in which case you kind of hope for the best, and once you get to the other side of the bridge, you're probably fine, because they don't mint tokens, right? So, but they all trust it. And I guess our work is to try to come up with a solution to actually build this trustless world that we all kind of set to build. I kind of imagine that this is like literally the reason why we're in this space, right? Because we like to have trustless solutions. So without further ado, I'm happy to announce that, you know, we're gonna do the second attempt and see if this time it will be more successful. But with this second attempt, we actually take all the lessons from the framework that we've built for L2s. And what are these lessons? You know, and I want you to reflect on these, because literally all of them were unexpected to me when we started this work like 5 years ago. So now I think that we know what is the secret sauce to actually make it succeed. So first of all, we think that the risk framework should have the right level of abstraction. And what it means is that, you know, if you build a scoring system and you say that, hey, this bridge is 62 and that bridge is 55, that means nothing to users, like literally nothing, right? Scoring is, in my opinion, useless, because it sort of like merges, you know, too many risks into one little number, and at the end of the day, you know, these numbers are not comparable. On the other hand, if you move to an opposite direction and you design your risk framework with this huge table with hundreds of different, you know, criterias, and you evaluate every single criteria individually, you'll end up with this long list of green and red and yellow, and users will be confused, right? And again, you know, they won't know what to choose. So I think that the right level of abstraction is key, and this is what we learned for L2s. And for L2s, we use, on the one hand, this pizza, which is like this 5-dimension kind of model, where at the end of the day, you want to be green all over the place. On the other hand, we have this stages rating classification, right? So we want to actually have something very simple but tangible. And if someone is at stage 0, then we may want to push them towards stage 1. And at one stage, you know, we may refuse to use stage 0 systems. So that is super important. We need some type of community pressure. We need the community pressure both from the top of the echelon, if you like, and this is just an example, like Vitalik says, I take this seriously. Starting next year, I plan to only publicly mention L2s that are stage 1. So maybe we should have something similar for Interop, right? Maybe we should like promote good Interop solutions and like be silent about all the others. Maybe, I don't know. We're gonna have a panel tomorrow. We will be discussing this, you know, with different founders of the different Interop protocols. Please come by and let's see what they have to say. But also, we need the community. We need like all the L2s to kind of like buy into this network, right? This is a random, I admit, I've chosen random, the guy from Chroma. All I want for my L2 is green pizza. So all L2s have actually signed to that. Like they signed, you know, people signed this trustless manifesto. All L2s have said that, you know, we want green pizza, which is great. Which is at least, you know, that's what they said publicly, right? And now we can like push them to actually deliver that, even though it's hard and it's not it just costs more money. We need to have a clear North Star. That's very important. This is coincidence that, a week ago, the Trustless Manifesto was published. I'm like super happy because we don't need to define the North Star ourselves. Now we can say, well, you can only be green if you adhere to these rules, right? If I need to trust Arbolito, which is hidden behind your EOA, then you're obviously red. I'm trusting a stranger. I don't know, right? I can't sue you if you screw it. I don't know who you are. Go to Relay page and try to find, where to go if your transaction fails. I would feel safer if there was terms and conditions and even if it was Seychelles or something, I would still feel safer. But there's nothing, zero. So it's Arbolito, it's unknown. Maybe yellow will be something in between, right? But there should be some kind of a North Star. I'm not trusting anyone here. I'm trusting EOA, unknown over there. I may be somewhere in the middle, but you'll never be in the middle if I need to trust unknown EOA, right? And the green, I don't trust anyone. It should be hard to game the framework, but fair at the same time. This is probably the hardest thing to do. For example, there's a rollup called Facet, which is arguably stage 2. We spent weeks discussing with them the stage designation, and a lot of community disagreed. They were kind of angry at L2BEAT here. How can Facet be stage 2 if there's only $170 canonically bridged? Everybody else is using a bridge which is secured by EOA. So essentially, it's completely trusted. All that money that you put in Facet is completely trusted. However, you can use this canonical bridge. So there's one brave person that actually used the canonical bridge to Facet. They moved $170, and you may be surprised or not at this stage, but that person is actually from L2BEAT. But we kind of proved that it works, and we saw no reason not to give it the stage 2, because you can. It's just that no one cares, right? So now we'll be actually changing the L2 framework, and we will actually say that, yes, Facet is stage 2 as an infrastructure. However, the escrow is shit, right? And don't use it if you care about trustlessness. But there's another one. So we will be kind of evaluating escrows individually. So there will be a big change to our main website. Again, much more work for us because we monitor hundreds of these L2s, and each one of them may have dozens of different escrows. So suddenly we're talking about thousands of contracts to monitor daily. And finally, we need to work closely with the community. We need to make sure that we are able to adapt. And we are we need to have community engaged into the whole process, right? So what's next? We'll be launching very soon the first version of a dashboard. On this dashboard, we will mostly show you the data, and we will expose some risks, and we'll be adding more and more risks here, right? So we will cover all the Interop protocols that are out there, similarly to what we do to rollups. So it's not gonna be someone will have to come to us, right, to get listed. No, if you build Interop protocol, we will list you, and we will tell the whole world that you're Arbolito. That's what we will do. Sorry for that, but this is how it works, right? This space is what it is. So we will list all of them, and we will list all that data. So that's our pledge. We will show and disclose basic risks, and eventually, once we kind of discuss this with the community, once the community learns what is the true state of interoperability, then we'll move from just showing the state of ecosystem and disclose risks. We will move finally to actually have the framework, right? So that we can actually define these stages, if you like, as long as we agree, and we will try to push all these projects to kind of sign the pledge. Similar to the Trustless Manifesto, the pledge essentially will say, yes, I agree that this is where I want to be in the future. We want to create more or less the similar kind of playing ground like we did for rollups, where we acknowledge that most of the rollups were multi-sigs. However, they all pledged that, like they are working on the proof systems. They want to move from a simple multi-sig to a security council. Eventually, they want to get rid of the security council. We want Interop providers to basically do the same, and hopefully this time we will succeed. Thank you.